air was sharp that night in September of 2006, the kind of night where autumn is settling in and every shadow feels just a little bit thicker, a little bit longer. In Bannock County, Idaho, the trees stood like dark sentinels against the sky, and a quiet country home became the stage for a nightmare. 17-year-old Cassie Jo Stoddart was doing something so ordinary, so responsible, it could have been any of us at that age. She was house sitting for her aunt and uncle, taking care of the pets, looking forward to a peaceful weekend with her boyfriend. She was known as trustworthy, reliable, the kind of young woman family members didn't hesitate to hand over their house keys to. But what none of them could have imagined was that while Cassie locked the doors and tried to settle in for the evening, two of her classmates were planning to turn her ordinary weekend into something out of a horror script. And that's the piece that chills me the most. This wasn't the work of drifters or faceless strangers hiding in the dark. The predators weren't men decades older, hardened criminals who stumbled into her life by chance. They were teenage boys, her peers, kids who walked the same halls at school, who cracked the same inside jokes, who lived in the same suburban bubble where the worst thing that could happen was supposed to be nothing more than a bad grade or a broken curfew. Instead, these boys wanted to write themselves into history, not with accomplishments, but with blood. They idolized horror movies. They scribbled down their own sick script. They imagined themselves as the directors of death, the stars of a twisted story where their victim's terror was just another scene. They weren't content to watch Halloween or Scream on VHS. They wanted to make their own version, with Cassie as the unsuspecting lead who would never see the credits roll. That's the nightmare of this case. Cassie Jo Stoddart wasn't just murdered. She was stalked and cornered in a home that should have been safe by friends she thought that she could trust. It was a slasher movie made real, not by legends or by boogeymen, but by boys who smiled in the yearbook photos and passed notes in class. And tonight, as October wraps the world in its cloak of shadows, her story feels like the very essence of Halloween horror. A night in a lonely house, lights flickering, a young girl unaware of the evil lurking just out of sight. The kind of story parents whisper as warnings, the kind of story friends trade when their pumpkins glow and the wind rattles their windows. But here's the truth. This wasn't fiction. There was no safety net, no camera crew, no chance to yell, "Cut." Cassie's life was stolen in a way that makes our skin crawl because it forces us to confront an awful truth. Sometimes the scariest monsters don't wear masks at all. They don't need to. They sit in the desks behind us. They walk down the halls of our schools. They call us friends. This October, when you see a mask in the store aisle or a flickering horror film on your TV, remember Cassie. Remember that she was real. She had dreams, she had plans, she had a future, and in the end, she was betrayed. Not by strangers, but by classmates who thought her final screams were nothing more than part of their show. This is the true story of Cassie Jo Stoddart. Hey Angela, how's it going?
Hi John, I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing pretty good. You ready for this episode?
More October episodes?
More October?
I'm always ready. Even in November, I'll be ready for October episodes.
I know you will. Are you familiar with this story?
It sounds slightly familiar, but not 100%. So you'll get organic responses.
All right. Well, you ready to jump into this?
I am. Let's do it.
All right. So welcome back, listeners, to Dark Dialogue, the podcast where we pull back the curtain on crimes both infamous and forgotten, the mysteries that haunt small towns and big cities alike. I'm your host, John.
And I'm Angela. And as John already knows, this is my favorite season. October is absolutely awesome. I'm not a huge fan of the chilly nights, but I do love the haunted houses as long as people aren't touching me.
Yeah.
When they make you sign a waiver that they can touch you, I turn around and want them to sign something that
You can punch.
that I can throat punch them if they touch me.
I agree.
Anyway, jack-o'-lanterns glowing on porches, love it. And the thrill of the scary stories all the time. I live for that.
Yeah, I know you do.
You know. But here's the thing. While I love the ghosts, the costumes, and the kind of spooky you can turn off when the lights come back on, what we're about to talk about tonight is the kind of horror you can't just switch off. It's not make-believe. It's real.
That's exactly right. Tonight's case is one of those that bridges the gap between Halloween legend and true crime reality. 17-year-old Cassie Jo Stoddart thought that she was in for a quiet weekend, house sitting, keeping the pets safe, maybe watching a movie with her boyfriend, but two of her classmates had other plans. They weren't just obsessed with scary movies. They wanted to create one of their own, with Cassie cast as their victim.
And that's what makes this one so chilling. It's not that Cassie's life was stolen, it's that she was betrayed by people she knew. Kids she saw every day in school. It's a reminder that sometimes monsters don't wear masks at all.
So before we dive in, if you're listening on YouTube, hit like, subscribe, and ring the bell so you don't miss a single episode. If you're tuning in on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or anywhere else, leave us a 5-star review and share the show with your friends. It helps us reach more listeners and keep telling these stories.
And if you want to go further, you can support the podcast through Patreon, Coffee, or Substack. That's where you'll find bonus content, behind-the-scenes updates, and ways to stand with us as we continue our victim advocacy work.
Because here at Dark Dialogue, we don't just tell stories. We keep victims' names alive. We demand answers, and we make sure that the guilty faces the reckoning.
So grab your flashlight, settle in for the October chill, and let's talk about a night where horror wasn't fiction. Tonight we tell the story of Cassie Jo Stoddart.
Now, Angela, I think you have some location information for us?
A little.
Well, hit us with
Just
it.
a little. So, I do love doing this podcast for many reasons, and one of them is that I'm learning so much more history than I ever did in school, and I do apologize to my teachers out there. I'm sorry that this is more fun than sitting in a classroom.
It definitely is.
It really is. So, I had no idea that Pocatello was named after Chief Pocatello. Did you?
I didn't, actually.
Yeah. So he was the leader of the Northern Shoshone tribe in Western North America, and he led attacks against early settlers. And after making peace with the U.S. government, he moved his people to their present location in Idaho. From the Pocatello.gov website, I gleaned that he granted the railroad a right-of-way through the Fort Hall Indian Reservation, and that is what likely resulted in the city being named after him.
Huh. Interesting.
Pocatello is the county seat and the largest city in Bannock County, Idaho. Bannock is also a tribe.
It is.
It was
that
in
one.
the area.
Yeah.
Yep. With a 1900 census reporting 4,046 residents, growing to 51,466 just a few years before this story took place. And then they cited an estimated 58,064 people in 2023.
So still growing.
Still growing. I can imagine it's, I would think probably like 60-ish, 61 now,
Probably something like that, yeah.
the way that trended. So while I know there are many historical items of note for Pocatello, I think we all know by now that I don't follow the norm.
We do know that.
I
yes.
don't. So here are my fun facts about Pocatello, starting with the city flag. Their city flag, used from 2001 to 2017, was considered by the North American Vexillological Association to be the worst city flag in North America.
Wow.
How rude, right? Just
Pretty rude.
this agency to be like, this is the worst flag
Guess
ever.
what sucks?
So they formed a design committee, and after a year and a half of meetings, the city council finally approved a new design titled Mountains Left on July 20th, 2017. I did see that one. I didn't look up. I feel bad. I didn't look up the worst one ever.
To look that up.
I know,
I
right?
don't even have a city flag, though.
We have a state. Yeah, just a state. We don't have a city.
Yeah,
We don't have a city flag.
I never heard of a city flag.
Rude. We need to get on that.
I guess, but I don't know of any cities that have a flag other than Pocatello.
Dark dialogue flag.
There you
go. Anyway.
100%.
Pocatello carries the nickname the U.S. Smile Capital, earned by an ordinance passed in the 1940s by Mayor George Phillips that made it illegal not to smile.
Interesting.
So John would get in trouble there.
Yes, I would.
Yes. The ordinance was meant to lift residents' spirits after a very harsh winter. Kind of an interesting way to boost morale, though I doubt they actually arrest people. This law is still active on the books.
That's very interesting.
Yeah, so be careful if you go there.
And fake smile. I'll just wear my
fake smile.
I'll wear my V for Vendetta mask. That smiles all the time.
That might get you in a little bit different kind of trouble.
Perhaps. I think it's worth a try.
Okay, well, I have
I live on the edge, my friend.
I have to be there, and we have to have bail money. That's just all I know.
Perfect. I totally agree. Totally.
Right? Yeah, we got to be able to bring you home. Okay, so the final tidbit I will leave you with is that actress and two-time kidnapping survivor Jan Broberg Felt was born in Pocatello. She was kidnapped on 2 occasions, once at 12 years old and again at 15 years old by a family friend, who I would not consider a family friend anymore.
Yeah.
The experience was documented by her mother in the book Stolen Innocence, the Jan Broberg story. Also detailing this ordeal were the documentary Abducted in Plain Sight and the drama miniseries A Friend of the Family. Jan has gone on to appear in various feature films apart from that, and perhaps John will let us circle back and cover her one day.
Yeah, definitely. I think so. It's such a strange story, and it's one where I am just like...
It is so strange.
And, you know, I never like to go after your victims' families or anything, but that story, it's like...
How did he do it twice?
How can you freaking people be this naive? Are you out of your minds?
How did he do it twice? And then the weirdness of the dude had a relationship with both mom and dad.
Yeah.
Interesting.
It's a bizarre freaking...
We'll have to come back to that, but that's what I have for location.
Well, thank you very much for that.
Here
we go. So Cassie Jo Stoddart was in every way the picture of a responsible, kind-hearted teenager. Growing up at Pocatello, she split her time between her mother's house and her grandparents. Immersed in a family atmosphere marked by warmth and support, her close-knit bond with her younger brother Andrew was unmistakable. They shared jokes, interests, and dreams, with Andrew often citing Cassie as his greatest role model and best friend. Academics were kind of central to Cassie's identity. Her teachers knew her as a straight-A student who quietly excelled, not for recognition, but from personal pride and ambition. She had a particular knack for numbers and a creative spark that flourished in art class. Cassie's mother would later keep her daughter's drawings on display, evidence of the hours Cassie spent sketching at her desk while music played softly in the background. Unlike many of her peers...
Familiar.
Doesn't it, though? Yeah. Unlike many of her peers, Cassie was not drawn to parties, drinking, or any risky behavior.
That does not sound familiar.
Not at all.
We were bad kids.
Yes, at least I was, for sure. She lived simply, preferring to babysit children or house sit for neighbors to earn money, determined to save enough for her own car. Even in her social life, Cassie had a gentle approach. She was shy but friendly, moving between cliques at Pocatello High School with a smile, treating everyone with fairness and with empathy. Her romantic relationship with Matt Beckman added a sweet, innocent chapter to her high school experience. They supported each other and shared simple pleasures like watching movies or talking about their plans for the future. Cassie never tried to impress with extravagance. She found fulfillment in being dependable, trustworthy, and genuine. Typical afternoons often found her at home drawing, studying, or listening to her favorite songs. She thrived on routine, wake up early for school, focus in class, help at home, pursue personal projects, and unwind in her private world of creativity. Even when acquaintances like Draper and Torey Adamcik her eventual killers.
I was going to say, why do I have a feeling we're going to hate those two?
Yeah. And even when they entered her life, Cassie greeted them with kindness and inclusion, never imagining malice could pass behind a familiar smile. I mean, this girl just sounds freaking like every parent's dream,
right?
You know? Yeah, she just seems like a really cool kid, you know, that had her head screwed on straight and would have achieved all kinds of stuff in life.
Right.
Her aspirations reached far beyond the Idaho horizon. She spoke of college and dreamed of a career in law or in forensics, fields led by her innate sense of justice and curiosity. Her friends and family saw her as mature beyond her years, a young woman whose integrity acted as a beacon in her community. Before tragedy struck, Cassie's life was full of promise. She was defined not by darkness or excess, but by simple, enduring light of everyday goodness, embodying the kind of sincerity, diligence, and hope that audiences can truly connect with, remembering her as a person first. Cassie Jo Stoddart was an intelligent, artistic, and caring young woman who is defined by her strong relationships, dedication to academics, and understated kindness before her life was tragically taken. Cassie grew up in Pocatello, Idaho, the small conservative community where family bonds and personal responsibility were valued. Her home life was layered. She lived primarily with her mother, Anna Stoddart, her stepfather, and siblings, but at times also with her grandparents who helped raise her during those formative years. Cassie and her siblings remained especially close to their mother, and she developed a close bond with her younger brother, Andrew, who viewed her as his best friend and role model. Cassie's loving nature and empathy were evident in the way she treated her family, opting to spend time with them, help care for her siblings, and maintain strong connections even as the family structure changed. Teachers and friends and family remembered Cassie as exceptionally responsible, trustworthy, and mature beyond her years. She was mainly described as shy but warm, approachable, and accepting. She rarely, if ever, engaged in any risky behaviors. She didn't drink, didn't party, she didn't use drugs. Instead, she preferred to spend time at home or with those that she cared about. Art class was one of her favorite subjects, and she was known to spend hours drawing in her room while listening to music, indicating a gentle, creative spirit. Many of her drawings were lovingly displayed by her mother in the family home. Cassie also had a strong academic drive. Like we said, she was a straight-A student who took her studies very seriously, always aiming for high achievements despite never being heavily involved in any extracurricular activities. She possessed a natural gift for numbers, which balanced with her artistic side. Her ambitions were grounded. She envisioned going to college and aspired to become a professional with interests mentioned in law or in the forensic fields, which I already said. As a junior at Pocatello High School, Cassie was liked by a wide range of peers across different cliques and social circles. She was known to treat everyone with kindness and respect, regardless of their background or their popularity. While somewhat reserved, she could be funny and enjoyed laughing with friends. A former classmate recalled Cassie's helpful support during a school project, offering quiet encouragement to boost a friend's confidence. Though Cassie's primary focus was her academics and her family, she did enjoy some typical teenage experiences. She was dating Matt Beckham for about 5 months leading up to her murder. Their relationship was described as sweet and supportive. Cassie also took on practical roles like babysitting, house sitting, and they were all motivated by her desire to get a car, which we can all, I think, relate to that.
Oh, yeah.
These jobs further highlighted her responsible and mature nature. Cassie's daily life was marked by routine and stability. She split her time up, like we said, between her mom's house and her grandparents. She was always involved with family life. Family was just really important to her. And then after school, she'd, get her homework done and all that kind of stuff. And then she'd start sketching, listening to music. And like I said, she seldom participated in any group activities. I mean, in that regard, she does remind me of myself,
Same.
other than the partying part. But other than that, it was, stay away from me.
Exactly. And I'm still that way.
I am very much still that way.
2 peas in a pod we are, John.
Yep. So the weekend of September 22nd, 2006 began with relief and a sense of adult pride for Cassie Jo Stoddart. At just 16, her reputation in the family was already stellar. Her Aunt Allison and Uncle Frank Contreras trusted her so much that they asked her to watch over their new dream home while they took a short trip, an assignment that Cassie accepted with enthusiasm. The house, nestled on Whispering Cliffs Drive outside Pocatello, was impressive. A spacious, split-level retreat surrounded by 2 acres of land, quiet and a little isolated from the world.
I can imagine how proud you would feel with that trust.
Yeah, absolutely.
Their dream home, even. I mean, just anything,
Yep.
but at 16 to be entrusted with their dream home?
Exactly.
Man.
Yep. So for the Contreras family, who were recent transplants from the bustling Bay Area, the home embodied security and new beginnings. Cassie had house sat and babysat for her aunt and uncle before. They knew that she would take excellent care of things and, more crucially, of the pets. 3 cats and 2 dogs were counting on her the most.
Aww.
Eager as always to show that she was trustworthy, Cassie jumped at the opportunity. Earning extra money was a bonus that she was grateful for. Every dollar brought her closer to the car that she was saving for, a tangible symbol of the independence that she craved. Her mother Anna drove her to the house in the late afternoon, and out of habit and maternal love, she waited and watched Cassie and made sure that she made it safely inside the house. That one last glance would be etched in Anna's memory forever.
Right.
Cassie knew the house was remote and, showing her maturity, asked permission for her boyfriend, Matt Beckham, to keep her company in the evenings. Permission granted, Cassie and Matt prepared for a quiet night, movies, and familiar comfort, the hallmarks of responsible young adulthood. And I got to say, I mean, that speaks volumes to
ask
me.
permission, yeah.
Yeah, because even like the best kids would be prone to sneak their girlfriend or boyfriend over. And this girl was so responsible that she actually asked permission. And I think it speaks volumes to her responsibility that her mom actually granted the permission.
Right.
You know what I mean?
And his parents, too.
Right.
Well, do we know if his parents knew?
We do, and they did.
Okay, good.
Yep. But the evening's tranquility did not last. Matt invited 2 of their classmates, Brian Draper and Torey Adamcik.
Damn it, Matt.
Yeah, whose relationship with Cassie was friendly and familiar. Cassie, ever the polite host, even offered them a tour of every room, including the basement. Unbeknownst to her, this small kindness allowed Draper to secretly unlock the basement door, setting an evil plan in motion. The boys departed, claiming that they were heading to the movies. Later, the power flickered and failed, leaving Cassie uneasy. Matt's mother later phoned, offering Cassie a safe, comfortable ride back to their house. Cassie, however, declined. The pets and her promise weighed on her. She was determined to fulfill her job to the very end, no matter the discomfort. When Matt's mother arrived and Matt left for the night, Cassie was alone in the large, unfamiliar house. Responsibility, the last decision that she would ever make. So just to give a kind of a timeline of all our events going on here in this story. So before September 22nd, Cassie's aunt and uncle, obviously, Alice and Frank Contreras, had asked her to house sit for the weekend and to take care of, it was primarily to take care of their animals and just kind of keep an eye on the new home. I mean, I got to imagine it was probably, they needed somebody to take care of their animals, and they were probably kind of giving her a little extra to, you know, to help out, save for the car, and be like, and you can watch the house too, and you know, we'll pay you for that. I'm just guessing, but it makes sense to me.
It sounds like an aunt and uncle thing to do.
It really does, yeah. And then on September 22nd, around 5:30, is when Cassie's mother drops her off at the home. And the home is described as being pretty large. And it was located, you know, like I said, on like, I think 2 acres of property. So it's pretty secluded. And then around 6 p.m., Cassie's boyfriend, Matt, arrives to spend some time with her. And his mom actually drove him and dropped him off.
Okay.
So all the parents were aware of what was happening.
Very good kids.
Yes.
Except for inviting random other people.
Right. So between 6:30 and 7, Brian and Tori show up, and Cassie really wasn't aware that they were coming. So I think that she was a little irked, but she was also just super sweet and nice. And so she was hospitable and enjoyed them and, you know, invited them in. And like I said, gave them a tour of the place and everything. And then sometime after 8, Draper and Adamcik left, saying that they were headed to the movies. And Cassie and Matt continued to watch Kill Bill Volume 2. And then sometime after 10 p.m., the power started to flicker, started to go off and on. And so both Cassie and Matt were getting pretty freaked out.
Matt had no idea these guys were...
None. Okay. No, he was completely innocent. So between 10:30 and 11:15, Matt's mom's calls, and Matt was like, you know, the power's gone off. Cassie's really freaked out. Can I stay here with her? To which mom was like, oh, hell no.
Right.
I don't need
We draw the line there.
No, we're not playing that game. But
I trust you, but
to show how sweet his mom was, she was like, no, but she can come with you here and stay at our house for the night. And so Matt said to Cassie, hey, you know, mom said you could come stay with us. And she was like, I can't do that. I have a responsibility to take care of my aunt and uncle's house. I told them I would. They're trusting me. I can't leave. And so, you know, then when Matt's mom came to pick him up, and then she was alone after that.
Yeah. Mom probably tried again in person, though. If she's...
What's that now?
Mom probably asked her again in person.
Oh, probably. Yeah.
So, I mean, I would. Are you sure you don't want to? Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure probably so. So Brian Draper and Torey Adamcik were both 16-year-old high school juniors at Pocatello High School in September of 2006. And both had deeply troubled backgrounds and dark fixations that led to Cassie Jo Stoddart's murder. So breaking that down, Brian Lee Draper was born March 21st, 1990 in Sandy, Utah, and then moved to Pocatello with his family and struggled from an early age with bullying due to a stutter that he had. And he described himself as a loser and a nobody, often seeking validation and longing for notoriety. So his fascination with violence began in middle school, notably through obsessing over the Columbine high school shooting.
Oh, no.
He idolized Eric Harris and Dylan Klebold, seeking to create chaos and destruction and surpass the death toll that they had inflicted. The sickness that came from these two losers has infected so many minds, and it's so freaking strange to me. So Draper often frequented online Columbine chat rooms, which is sick in its own right.
No doubt.
And expressed through writings and homemade videos a desire to reenact such terror, even penning a piece called, quote, Columbine, in which he called Harris and Klebold his heroes.
Oh, no.
Yeah, he's a sick little shit. His family life appeared generally supportive, and both parents were present for multiple interviews after the murder. And then Torey Michael Adamcik was born June 14th, 1990, and was raised in Pocatello, Idaho. Torey's mother described him as a quiet, non-violent kid, but others noticed that he was socially awkward and often disturbed peers by imitating violent acts, pretending to stab them or to slit their throats at school. Adamcik maintained a keen interest in horror movies, especially Scream, which decorated his locker and shaped his fantasy of becoming a filmmaker and a notorious killer.
Jeez.
So he harbored a crush on Cassie, occasionally flirting with her over the prior 2 years. Adamcik later referenced infamous killers like Ted Bundy and the Zodiac Killer in videos, boasting that he and Draper would make history and calling all those other murders amateurs. Like, these two little dumb shits thought they were so freaking brilliant, and they're like the dumbest pieces of shit to ever do anything. I mean, they're dumber than a freaking clump of hair, these two. But they thought they were just too brilliant to get caught.
Wonderful.
His mother later published a book asserting his innocence, which is insane. But later court testimony strongly contradicted that. Well, not only later court testimony, but the video that they recorded of it, which we'll get to it. It's pretty hard to claim either of these two little dumb shits were in any way innocent.
Because he wanted to be a filmmaker.
Right.
Wonderful. Okay.
So Draper and Adamcik became close friends at Pocatello High School, and they were drawn together by their freaking sickness, whatever infected their brains. Their relationship fostered dark, violent tendencies, and together they created a death list filled with classmates, including Cassie Jo Stoddart, with video diaries documenting their desire to kill. So around August the 31st, 2006, they acquired 4 knives at a pawn shop through Adamcik's older friend, Joe Lucero, citing the reason as a collection. They're collecting knives. Though Draper claimed immediate ownership of the knife later used in the murder. So on September 21st, 2006, they attempted to kill another girl.
Jeez.
And so listed...
Somebody else who turned him down?
Well, I think it might have been 2, because in the court papers, there's a listing for Jane Doe number 1 and a listing for Danny Dixon. So it's very possible it was 2, or Danny Dixon was their intended victim and was also listed as Jane Doe number 1. A lot of the times in court papers, they'll list them as like Jane Doe number 1, especially if they're minors.
Yeah.
But it also was listed as Danny Dixon. So I'm unclear whether it was 2 intended victims or just 1.
Okay.
But we do know that Danny Dixon was one of their intended victims, and their attempt was foiled because she wasn't home when they went to kill her. And so their videotapes reference multiple failed attempts, all targeting isolated, vulnerable fellow classmates. So Cassie, like we said, was entrusted to take care of the house and everything. And Matt, her boyfriend, he had no ill intentions at all. He was just a kid that invited these other 2 dipshits to come over, and they were going to have like a group movie night. And so...
But was he... was he in their group?
No.
So...
But they were just kind of friends and classmates.
Oh, okay. So he kind of maybe felt bad for him or something?
Maybe. I mean, I just got the...
I'm trying to figure out why a good kid's mixed up with these asshats. There you go. It's my turn to call them asshats.
They're definitely asshats. I don't have a good answer for you, but it's... I mean... Like, there's videos as sick as it is, there's a video that they took of Cassie that day in school. And they like went up to her locker and were like joking with her and stuff like that. So, I mean, it was obvious that like she didn't hate them or anything, you know?
Right.
So I just think that they were like, you know, acquaintances, even maybe friends and classmates, you know? But they probably kept their dark as shit just between the two of them.
Well, yeah.
These weird ass little freaks always do that, you know? Like they only talk about killing everybody when it's just the two of them. So that's kind of what I'm guessing. Matt was in no way involved in this at all. He just thought that they were going to have a movie night. These two dipshits thought that they were going to a party, but it was just like Cassie and Matt just intended to have an innocent, we're going to watch movies. These two dipshits thought they were going to go get drunk or high or whatever.
Right.
And so they get there and it was just watching a movie. So it is reported that even though that she kind of saw both of the boys as friends, she was reportedly pretty freaking annoyed with Matt for inviting them without checking with her first. So we do know that.
Well, because she asked for permission for everything.
Right. And we do know that Cassie had no part in this. I mean, why the hell are you going to ask permission for your boyfriend to come over?
But not two randos? Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So. But nonetheless, being the sweetheart that she was, she played the welcoming host and offered the boys a tour of the house, including the critical basement where Draper discreetly unlocked a back door that would facilitate their later return. So the 14s then watched Kill Bill Volume 2 together, and Draper and Adamcik left about 2 hours later. And when they left, it was before the movie ended, and they said that they planned to catch another film at the theater in town. Okay. But instead of departing, these two little dipshits parked nearby and re-entered the house through the unlocked basement door about 15 minutes after they left. And their goal was to terrorize and then murder Cassie using tactics that were inspired by the Scream films.
So they must have known that Matt was going to leave.
Yes.
Now, let it be on the record. I do love scary movies. I do enjoy watching Scream. I do not intend to kill anyone. Just let that be known.
Yeah, I'm right there with you.
Carry on.
Yes. So, their initial plan was the electrical panel was located in the basement.
Right.
And their initial plan was to turn the breaker.
Stupid place for it too. It should be where you're not afraid to go.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of them are outside, so I don't know. But their plan was they were going to turn a breaker off to like the lights and stuff upstairs. Cassie would come down to the breaker panel to check it out.
Okay. And
they would kill her. But, you know, it didn't work out that way because she's a freaking 16-year-old girl. She probably doesn't have the slightest clue about flipping a breaker back on anything, and she's probably scared shitless to go into a basement by herself anyway, so it didn't quite work out the way that they had planned. So sometime after 9:30, when they came back in, Cassie and Matt were upstairs continuing to watch the movie. The boys entered the basement and started making loud noises, and like I said, they were trying to lure them downstairs. I do believe that they were planning to kill Matt and Cassie together.
Okay.
Draper broke ashtrays on the staircase as a further baiting tactic, but it failed to get these two kids to go downstairs. And so they decided to shift tactics, and Draper and Adamcik located the circuit breaker in the basement and deliberately turned off the power, obviously causing blackout to parts of the house. And then around 10 o'clock, the family dogs became agitated, barking and focusing intensely on the basement stairs. And obviously that added to Cassie's fears. So 10:30-ish, something like that, Cassie was visibly shaken and she was scared shitless, this poor girl.
Yeah.
And so, like I said, concerned for her well-being, Matt called his mom and asked if he could stay, which she said no, but Cassie could spend the night with them if if they wanted to. But she was so responsible. And this speaks volumes because if I'm hearing this shit in the basement,
I'm out.
I'm probably taking the opportunity to sleep at somebody else's house too. Like,
feed the animals.
I don't think I'm
back
that
early.
responsible. Shit, I'll bring the animals with me. I don't give a shit. I'm out of here.
Yeah.
But she was just, I don't know. She was an impressive little girl is just all there is to it. So by around 11:15, Matt's mom showed up to pick him up and left Cassie alone in the house. And as Matt left, he called Torey's.
She has a mom that probably tore her up.
I can't even imagine. Really, everybody involved. Her mom that dropped her off there. Her aunt and uncle who left her in this position. This mother who, they're all blaming themselves and it's none of their fault.
Yeah.
But after Matt left, he called Torey's cell phone, hoping to check in, perhaps meet up later. And Adamcik answered in a whisper, and Matt could barely hear him. And he wrongly assumed that the boys were at the movie theater watching the movie, like they said, when in fact they were in the basement.
Kind of shocked he answered the phone.
Right? So inside the house, after Matt left, Draper and Adamcik once again turned the lights off at the breaker panel in the basement, waited for Cassie to come downstairs. She didn't. But the psychological games and the growing menace culminated in a terrifying loneliness for Cassie in her final moments before the attack. This poor girl was scared shitless.
Right.
So as Matt drove away, Draper and Adamcik remained hidden in the basement, and they were dressed in black long-sleeve shirts, gloves, and their self-decorated white face masks with faux blood. They put like fake blood on the cheesy, stupid-ass Scream mask.
The ghost face mask?
Yeah. Draper was armed with a serrated dagger type of knife. Adamcik had a hunting knife, and both had purchased them weeks earlier for this purpose.
No, they purchased them for
As
collection.
a collection. Yeah.
Get it right, John.
So after confirming with each other in their car on video
Disgusting.
that Cassie was alone, they waited for Matt to leave, the tension mounted in their recording voices as they talked about the, quote, grueling task ahead of them. Yeah. So their plan, like I said, was to force Cassie to come downstairs. Once they realized that she was not going to leave the relative safety of the living room,
right?
Draper and Adamcik decided to go up the stairs. And as they climbed the stairs, the dogs barked at them, sensing a danger, such freaking creepy, psychotic little shitheads in the house.
Right.
Dogs have a real shithead sense.
Yeah, if dogs don't like someone, don't like them either.
Yeah, 100%. So Draper sought to frighten Cassie further by opening and slamming a closet door at the top of the stairs. Cassie, likely frozen in terror, was then ambushed by these two shitheads. The attack was frenzied and merciless. Cassie was stabbed approximately 29 to 30 times in the chest, neck, back, and abdomen. At least 12 wounds were deemed to be potentially fatal. Most of the most severe wounds came from the serrated knife that was wielded by Brian Draper.
Whew.
Cassie fought bravely for her life, sustaining all kinds of defensive wounds on her hands and on her arms. One report even suggests that she lost a finger in the struggle.
Wow.
Yeah. And, she probably grabbed the knife.
Yeah.
And it's sick to even freaking think about what this poor girl went through. Draper initially claimed that Adamcik started the stabbing, and then he only followed upon being threatened when Adamcik tried to blame Draper entirely. So you're going to see that these two little shits turn on each other like at the freaking drop of a hat.
Of course they do.
So after they finished brutally murdering this sweet classmate of theirs for no freaking reason whatsoever, these two dipshits leave Cassie's lifeless body in a pool of blood on the living room floor. And then they get in the car And they're recording themselves the whole time on video with Brian exclaiming on tape that he had, quote, just killed Cassie. And they're all excited and shit.
Jeez.
And then Torey panicked, cut Draper off, and demanded that they, quote, get their act straight, planning to create an alibi by purchasing movie tickets. So the boys...
Still recording,
yes.
Gotcha. Okay.
So the boys then went to a store, bought stick matches and hydrogen peroxide, and attempted to burn and bury the bloodstained clothes, the masks, and the knives in Black Rock Canyon. Their attempt was clumsy at best.
Mm-hmm.
They used, yeah, I mean,
Okay.
You would think kids this age would be smarter than these two dipshits.
Well, and if they watch movies and they have an affinity, come on.
But they used hydrogen peroxide instead of like gasoline to burn shit. Hydrogen peroxide's not flammable.
It's not flammable.
So, yeah. And I mean, we're not talking about 4-year-olds.
Right?
You know, like
These children, these guys were driving.
they were juniors.
They were on our roads.
By the time I was a junior in high school, I definitely knew that gasoline was more flammable than peroxide.
Right.
So the evidence was only partially
Fritos
strong.
corn chips are more flammable than
Oh,
peroxide.
a hell of a lot more. So around midnight, Matt called Cassie to say goodnight, but received no answer. And then he called repeatedly the next day because obviously he was increasingly worried. And the next day, Matt asked Torey to drive him back out to the Contreras home to check on Cassie, but Torey refused, claiming that he didn't have enough gas. And Matt ended up staying at Torey's house, still completely unaware that this piece of shit had murdered his girlfriend the night before.
Mm-hmm.
So Cassie's body was not discovered until Sunday when her poor aunt and uncle and cousin returned home.
Great.
And her cousin found her in the living room, which obviously resulted in severe trauma and long-term psychological consequences for the cousin and that entire family. I can't even imagine. So the cousin was 13-year-old Kelsey. So 13-year-old is who discovered her cousin's body around 1:15 p.m. on Sunday. When they arrived home, the house was unusually quiet and the front door was unlocked, a detail that immediately they noticed. They're like, oh shit, the door's unlocked.
Mm-hmm.
And then Kelsey discovered Cassie's body in the living room and immediately called 911. Officers and paramedics arrived very promptly and quickly recognized that this was a homicide. And
Right. She didn't stab herself 30 times.
Right. And, there was nothing for the paramedics to do at that point because she was gone,
Oh.
So police observed extensive blood around her and noted very deep stab wounds. The scene also showed clear signs of a struggle with blood on the carpet, the furniture, the walls. I mean,
Yeah.
you stab somebody like 30 freaking times and it is going to be everywhere.
Spatter everywhere.
So obviously, law enforcement immediately began a homicide investigation. They placed the Contreras family in a hotel for their own safety and well-being, and because their house was now an active crime scene.
Right.
Investigators found no signs of forced entry, no murder weapons, and no evidence of robbery, suggesting that Cassie knew her killers. The house pets were found alive and unharmed, but locked in a different room, and police found broken glass in the basement, and the breaker box had been tampered with, which would become key clues to the killer's entries and exit. So police quickly focused on the last known to have seen Cassie alive, Matt Beckham, and then through his statements, Brian Draper and Torey Adamcik. So both Matt and Cassie's mother's boyfriend were cleared based on their solid alibis. They took polygraphs, passed them, and, they investigated them thoroughly, but there was nothing.
Right.
And so Draper and Adamcik initially lied to the police, claiming that they left the house early to see the movie that night. And then, it it was classic, police interrogation tactics.
Right.
We went to the movie. What was the movie about?
Mm-hmm.
Had no freaking clue.
No idea.
No freaking clue. Like, this is how dumb these two little shits are.
And what, were you making out with each other during the movie? Doubtful.
Right. So their alibi fell apart very, very quickly. A little discussion about Cassie's body and stuff like that. So forewarning, like I do every time, if you don't like hearing about this kind of stuff, fast forward a bit to get past this part. But she was found lying face up on the living room floor, dressed in yellow pajama pants, decorated with stars and a white spaghetti strap tank top. Her arms were above her head, elbows bent, and her face turned to the right. The scene was described as horrific. Blood soaked into the carpet, splattered on the furniture, on the walls. And they even talked about this metallic kind of sweetness that was in the air from the blood, which I've heard like, detectives describe that.
Yeah.
You can almost taste the blood in the air, in a scene like this. Cassie's body displayed full lividity, which indicated that she had been dead for quite a long time.
Right.
The medical examiner, Dr. Charles Garrison, ruled Cassie's cause of death as multiple stab wounds to the trunk. She suffered approximately 30 stab wounds. Some reports say 29, others say 30. Not really that important between the two, but just
right.
of note. The wounds were deep lacerations with injuries inflicted on her chest, neck, trunk, abdomen, back, and limbs. Between 9 and 12 of these wounds were considered fatal. The majority of the fatal wounds struck the right ventricle of her heart, leading to massive internal bleeding and a very rapid death, which thank God for something.
Small favors.
Right. Notably, wound number 1, a non-serrated blade wound, pierced the right ventricle and was identified as potentially fatal in itself. Most other fatal wounds, 11 of the 12, were delivered by the serrated blade knife. The sheer number and distribution of wounds, including repeated stabs even after potential fatal injuries, confirmed the attack was one of extreme overkill.
Yeah.
Cassie fought back with extraordinary courage. The autopsy revealed numerous defensive wounds to her hands and her forearms, a sign of her desperate effort to fend off the attackers. The 911 call that reported her death mentioned that she was missing a finger, which is consistent with the violence of the attack when trying to block or grab for the weapon. Forensic analysis confirmed at least 2 distinct weapons were used, one a serrated blade, a folding knife, the other a single-bladed, non-serrated knife. These corresponded to the dagger-style weapon used by Draper and the hunting knife used by Adamcik, both recovered after their confessions. The use of 2 weapons and the pattern of wounds further implicated 2 perpetrators directly in the killing. And then DNA and blood evidence found at Black Rock Canyon directly linked these 2 dipshits to the crime. Cassie's blood was recovered on the serrated folding knife and on the cuff of some Calvin Klein black shirt that was worn by Draper. Draper's DNA was found underneath the fingernails of both of Cassie's hands, disproving his earlier claim that he had never touched her or stabbed her. He never did anything. Adamcik's DNA was later found on one of the white and red blood mimicking masks that was left with the evidence. So these forensic links were the cornerstone in securing their later convictions. So initially, the investigation began with Matt Beckham, obvious reasons. He was Cassie's boyfriend. He was the last known person to see her alive. He cooperated fully with the investigators, gave a very detailed timeline, and he passed a polygraph, and so they cleared him as a suspect. And then, like I mentioned before, Cassie's mother's boyfriend, whose fingerprints were on the basement fuse box, But he explained that he'd done electrical repairs earlier that month at the home, and he had a solid alibi and was cleared early on in the investigation. So police obviously turned to the two dipshits, which Matt was like, yeah, I saw her, but so did these two dipshits. So, yeah. So they both initially claimed that they left the house after around 9:30 and went to the movies and said that they saw the film Pulse, which I never heard of that movie.
I've seen it,
but
it wasn't great.
Like I said, they asked him, oh, okay, what was it about? They had no freaking clue. They'd never seen it. They couldn't even tell what actors were in it. They knew nothing about this movie that they chose as their alibi. So detectives confirmed with a theater employee who was also a classmate of all these kids that they weren't there that night. And he would have known them because he went to school with these two dipshits. So their alibi was just completely shattered. So when the movie story failed, the boys then changed their account, claiming that they spent the night burglarizing cars. Again, they had no details of any of this, and it was easily disproven. So Draper eventually slipped up in the interview and referenced that Cassie had been stabbed, and that was a detail that had not been released at all at this point. And so finally, after being told that he was going to have to take a polygraph, this dumb little shit just broke down. He confessed that they had unlocked the basement door hours earlier, that Torey started stabbing Cassie while Draper watched. Draper denied stabbing Cassie completely at first, claiming, oh, I only stabbed her because Torey made me do it. And so then he leads investigators, and his dad was along with them, leads investigators to Black Rock Canyon, where police recovered the following evidence: 4 knives, including a serrated one with Cassie's blood on it, bloody gloves and clothes, the Calvin Klein shirt that I mentioned before, and the stupid scream masks, a partially burned Sony VHS tape, which was ultimately restored, and it captured the death list, the murder planning, and Draper's giddy post-killing confession. And then in a subsequent interview, after hearing that Adamcik was also being questioned and faced mounting evidence, Draper admitted to stabbing Cassie 4 times because Torey made him.
Yeah.
So when it became clear that Draper had confessed and that the buried evidence implicated both of them, Adamcik ended questioning by requesting an attorney. So both 16-year-olds were arrested on September the 27th, 2006, and charged with first-degree murder and conspiracy to commit first-degree murder. So, I mean, I do just got to mention, it's so freaking bizarre to me. They videotaped like this whole freaking thing and then immediately burn the videotape.
Yeah.
But they don't even do it right because they try to use hydrogen peroxide to freaking burn it. So, I mean, these two kids are just dumber than freaking clumps of hair.
Yes.
Thank God they are, but they are.
They are.
So given their brutality, the planning, and age of legal responsibility, both of these two little shits were tried as adults in separate 2007 trials. Prosecutors argued that the killers were driven by a desire for notoriety, inspired by Columbine for Draper, and the Scream movies for Adamcik. The key evidence was the recovered videotape, which captured the teens describing their murderous plan, documenting their death list, and boasting after the crime, a direct contradiction to the defense claim that it was all a prank or a movie script.
A prank?
Yeah. The medical examiner testified regarding the 2 knives. The weapons matched those purchased by Draper and Adamcik with the help of Joe LaRusso, who also testified. Each defendant tried to blame the other. Draper claimed Adamcik orchestrated and committed the murders, while Adamcik insisted that he was merely a bystander pressured by Draper. And the jury saw through their freaking stupid defenses, especially given the physical and the digital evidence. It's on freaking video, you dumb shits. Brian Draper was convicted of first-degree murder and conspiracy to commit first-degree murder on April the 17th, 2007. Torey Adamcik was convicted of both counts on June 8th, 2007. Both received mandatory life sentences without parole, plus an additional 30 years to life for conspiracy to commit murder. And the judge justified the sentence by citing the risk the boys posed to society and the chilling evidence of premeditation. I mean, you can find these videos and you can watch them.
Yeah.
They have videos of them talking about this days before. And I mean, they're so cruel. They're like, it's too bad it has to be Cassie because I really like Cassie, but somebody's got to die.
Oh,
I mean, shit like that. That's not a direct quote, but it's pretty much, and you at least get the tone that they were like, yeah, we don't really care who it is. We just want to start killing people because in order to get our numbers up to surpass like Bundy and the Columbine killers, we got to start somewhere. So I guess it's just got to be Cassie.
Not that I want them to, but why didn't they start in a school then if they were so Columbine heavy?
I don't understand this crime at all. No part of this.
No.
Makes
we don't understand
sense.
many crimes.
No. But this one is so weirdly, I mean,
yeah.
In like some of the crimes, there's like this sexual motivation or something, this depravity that they're attracted to young girls or whatever the case may be. You don't understand it, but there's like something that you can at least explain it with, kind of.
Kind of, yeah, a little bit.
These two dipshits, I got nothing, man. It's like a total freaking mystery. And, with like some of the school shooters and whatnot, they're like, picked on, bullied. They're pansy ass little bitches that, can't actually be men and like face their freaking bullies or whatever. So they just kill everybody.
Right.
But they target like the ones that like, I don't know, picked on them or whatever. These two, like Cassie didn't do nothing. They had no axe to grind with her. She just simply was going to be at this house alone. And so it was an opportunity to kill. It wouldn't have mattered if it was her. It could have been literally any of their classmates, and they would have done the same thing. It's so freaking bizarre to me. It's really hard to get my mind wrapped around.
Yeah.
So Brian Draper, dipshit, worthless piece of shit number one, is currently incarcerated at the Idaho State Correctional Institute in Kuna, Idaho. It's a maximum security prison operated by the Idaho Department of Corrections. And Torey Adamcik is serving his sentence at the same freaking place. Some sources clarified that for a period, he was transferred to Saguaro Correctional Center in Arizona, but as of 2025, he is primarily listed as being in the Idaho system. So both men live under harsh, tightly regulated conditions, as is typical for inmates with life sentences in maximum security. They're confined to small cells for most hours of the day with controlled movement for meals, showers, and limited recreation. Prisoners convicted of highly publicized or notorious crimes often spend much of their time in segregation for their own safety. I say put these little shits in gin pop and just let them have them.
100%.
Draper and Adamcik do not maintain contact with each other, though occasionally they'll pass each other in prison. They remain silent and avoid any interaction with each other. Adamcik's appeal history and status have kept him under scrutiny, sometimes leading to reviews or changes in security classification and limited access programs. So, a couple of noteworthy experiences and statements. Draper has occasionally communicated remorse when interviewed by reporters, stating, quote, "I regret it every day of my life," end quote. However, there's no indication that he has been able to move beyond his infamy or earn any privilege beyond basic prison routine. Adamcik and at times his mother have maintained his innocence, which blows my freaking mind, or minimized his role. It was all his friend made him do it. He just picked the wrong friends.
Man.
Whatever.
Yeah.
Even as his numerous appeals and attempts to challenge sentencing have failed, reports describe him as quiet and withdrawn. Both of these two pieces of shit are ineligible for parole, thank God, and will almost certainly remain incarcerated for life, die in there, subject to internal transfer, reviews based on discipline, or rare federal developments in sentencing law. It's not likely these two little shits are ever getting out.
Good.
So for them, life is structured with precise schedules, wake up, counts, chow, work details if they're eligible, limited access to recreation yards or reading materials, occasional classes, and mandatory lockdowns. Contact with the outside world is restricted to supervised visits, monitored mail, and rare time-limited phone calls, often to attorneys or immediate family. I think it was a Dateline special where they were actually able to interview one of these little shits over the phone. But for the most part, they're just locked away and we can all forget about them because they're worthless pieces of shit. So being as high profile as they are, neither is likely trusted with any kind of sensitive jobs in prison outside of their housing units, and both endure greater surveillance than most inmates. Cassie Jo Stoddart's murder is often remembered under the headline, The Scream Murder, but reducing it to a nickname risks forgetting the truth. Cassie wasn't a character in a film. She wasn't a role to be filled or a victim in a script. She was a daughter, a student, a friend. She had a smile her family loved and a sense of responsibility that earned their trust, and dreams that reached far beyond a quiet Idaho town. She deserved the chance to see those dreams through. Her life was stolen not by masked strangers, not by faceless horror, but by people that she knew. That's the part that lingers. Ryan Draper and Torey Adamcik weren't monsters hiding in the dark. They were classmates, peers, two boys who sat in the same classrooms and walked the same hallways. Cassie had no reason to fear them until the night that they chose to turn her into the star of their twisted fantasy. They filmed themselves, laughed into the camera, spoke proudly about taking a life. They idolized killers on screen, but what they did wasn't a movie. There were no special effects, no stunt doubles, no rewrites. Only a 16-year-old girl alone in a house, bleeding out, betrayed by people that she thought were her friends. That betrayal cuts deeper than the knives they carried. It reminds us of something that we'd rather not face. Sometimes the greatest danger isn't what lurks outside, but who we already let in. For Cassie's family, there will never be enough words to measure the loss. Every birthday that never came, every milestone stolen, every day her voice wasn't heard, the empty chair at the table, the silence that follows in the place of laughter. For them, Cassie's absence isn't a story. It's a wound that never closes. And for the community, her murder shattered the illusion of safety. Bannock County was supposed to be quiet, steady, safe. But evil came from within, dressed not in a mask or a costume, but in the ordinary faces of two teenage boys who wanted to make fiction real. It is tempting, especially in October, to think of this as a story that aligns with the season, a tale of horror come alive. But to stop there is to miss the truth. Cassie Jo Stoddart wasn't a seasonal headline. She wasn't a prop in someone else's nightmare. She was real. Her life mattered. And remembering her means cutting through the sensationalism to see her for who she was and for what was lost. As we close tonight, remember Cassie not as the Scream murder victim, but as a 16-year-old girl with a future. Remember that her killers weren't mysterious strangers. They were familiar faces, hiding darkness behind ordinary smiles. And remember that the scariest monsters are sometimes the ones who don't look frightening at all. So tonight, as the night grows longer and the shadows stretch across your street, think about the trust that we give to the people around us. Think about how quickly it can be broken, and how close the names and the lives of those who never got the chance to write their own endings. This isn't a movie. This was Cassie Jo Stoddart's reality. Cassie Jo Stoddart was more than a headline, more than a tragic story told in hushed voices every autumn. She was a daughter, a granddaughter, a cousin, and a friend. Born December 21st, 1989, Cassie grew up surrounded by family and in a community that knew her as a kind, dependable young woman with a quiet strength well beyond her years. At just 16 years old, she was already carving out the kind of life that people admire. Cassie was responsible and trustworthy, the kind of girl her family could rely on to care for their pets, to look after their home, to step up when asked. She had a seriousness about her, a maturity that stood out, but she also had a gentleness that made her loved by those that truly knew her. Friends remember her for her creativity. She loved art, loved expressing herself, and found joy in the small details of life that others might overlook. Teachers saw her not just as a student, but as a young woman with the potential to go far. Family knew her as someone who loved deeply, who could be counted on, who was building a future piece by piece, a future she should have had the chance to live. Cassie's life was stolen from her in one of the most horrific and senseless ways imaginable. But she is not defined by the brutality of her death. She is defined by the way that she lived, with kindness, responsibility, and quiet determination. She should be remembered not as a victim in someone else's story, but as a young woman with her own dreams, her own path, and a heart full of promise. For her family, Cassie's absence will always be felt. The birthdays that will never be celebrated, the milestones that will never be reached, the laughter that will never again echo through their homes. Their grief is a reflection on the depth of their love for her and the enormous loss that the world suffered the day that Cassie's light was taken. And yet, even in that loss, her story continues to matter. Cassie's name is still spoken, her memory carried by those who refuse to let her be forgotten. Every time her story is told, it is not to elevate those that hurt her, but to honor the life she should have had, to remind us of the importance of valuing every moment and every person that we hold close. Cassie Jo Stoddart should be remembered as a bright, dependable, and loving 16-year-old girl, a young woman with a future stolen far too soon. In her memory, may we carry forward not the horror of her death, but the warmth of her life. May we honor her by speaking her name, by cherishing the loved ones around us, and by remembering that the true measure of a life is not in how it ended, but in how it was lived. Cassie deserved so much more, and tonight, we keep her memory alive. That's where we close the story of Cassie Jo Stoddart tonight. 16 years old, with a future that she should have had the chance to live. Cassie wasn't a character in a horror film. She was a daughter, a friend, and a young woman whose life mattered. And remembering her means seeing past the headlines and never letting her name fade.
This is why we do what we do, to make sure the victims are remembered and to make sure their stories still echo, even years later.
If you want to be a part of that mission, we'd love to have you join us. Become a member of the Dark Dialogue Collective or take part in our Adoptive Victim Program, where you can help carry forward the memory and advocacy of those who can no longer speak for themselves.
You can find everything at our website at darkdialogue.com, from case files to victim tributes, and you can reach out to us anytime at info@darkdialogue.com.
And don't forget to sign up for our Substack, where we share deeper dives, updates, and behind-the-scenes insight that you won't find anywhere else.
Your support, whether it's subscribing, sharing the show, or joining us directly, is what keeps these stories alive.
So keep searching, keep questioning, keep remembering, keep listening, and above all, keep the dialogue alive.